Do you like DK in Pittsburgh?
I do like him in Pittsburgh. Now with George Pickens, assuming they keep him, this is one of the most talented groups of receivers in the league. Now, as you said, Wiles, who's throwing them the football? I don't think you're giving DK Metcalf that type of money without knowing that you're going to have somebody capable of getting him the ball. Justin Fields, you wouldn't have maximized Metcalf and Pickens together. And not to mention the tight end's pretty good too, Pat Freiermuth, with Justin Fields. I guess they could bring back Russell Wilson. I guess my choice, and I've been saying it, I'm darn close to brushing off my shoulders.
Oh, wow.
All right, but I've been saying for a week, all off season essentially, Aaron Rodgers should be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's
and I'm
great.
not saying he's going to lead them to the Super Bowl because you guys know how I feel about Rodgers in championship games. But I am saying
they don't have to worry
need to
about
go
championship
get. Well,
games.
they better go get Aaron Rodgers. You gotta get Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Why? He's not good.
Who's going to throw the ball to DK Metcalf and
No.
George Pickens? And those two guys can get a little bit testy if they're not getting the rock.
Yeah.
And Rodgers has the cachet, right? He's Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Famer. They will respect him, and I think that's the move for the Steelers, no doubt.
All right. Greg, before you go, first of all, I'm going to do something that's never been done, I don't think, Wilds, in sports TV history.
Okay.
I'm going to put up a quote that hasn't been said, but is definitely going to be said sometime in the next minutes, in the next 10 minutes.
There we go.
Dusty, if you would, please. This is a quote from Chris Broussard a few minutes from now. Listen, I'm not saying he was as good as his numbers, but Aaron Rodgers did have 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions last year.
A version of that.
To be
A version, Nick. Only six quarterbacks.
He
Only
got it.
6 quarterbacks threw more touchdowns than Aaron Rodgers last year. That's it.
See?
And only 7 threw for more yards. There's a version
knew
of that.
Brew would love. So I knew Brew would love this because he loves. There's nothing Brew loves more than a true
facts.
stat that he thinks is that he agrees is misleading. From the studio that brought you, I'm not saying Russell Wilson was as good as his numbers in 2023. Brings you, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is as good as his numbers in 2024. But here's my concern, Greg. No matter who the quarterback is, I think they have to trade George Pickens. And I think they're going to trade George Pickens.
Wow.
And I think talking about DK and Pickens as if they're going to be a duo is somewhat of a fool's errand, and it's for 2 reasons. One, they are very similar wide receivers.
Very much.
Where they're dominant deep threats, but where their weaknesses are kind of on the rest of the route tree or intermediate stuff. That's the first point. Second point is this. George Pickens in a contract year. So I don't think they paid DK Metcalf $30 million a year, new money of $33 million a year to be the number 2 option, obviously. And I don't think they paid him with the plan of paying George Pickens big-time wide receiver money. And Greg, I don't know George Pickens personally, but I feel like I know George Pickens well enough that if you're saying, hey, going into this year, you're not getting paid and your targets are going down and you're a number 2, he might be a handful. He seems to be a handful all the time anyway. So I don't look at this as DK and Pickens. I look at this as DK with Pickens likely on the move. And we can get to the Rodgers stuff, after, but I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. From the Pittsburgh perspective, I thought it was a great move, them being aggressive, going and getting and acquiring another talented guy outside the lines as it pertains to the receiver position on the perimeter. That will as their roster stands right now, would attract somebody like an Aaron Rodgers, if you will, because we know he would need support, and would really solidify, okay, if we are going to move forward with both of these guys, who gives us the best option? And to be honest, it would look like seemingly Russell Wilson because of the skill set. And you mentioned the skill set, and that's where I want to circle up, because the skill set of both of these guys are identical. Identical. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they don't have a great skill set. They do. They just don't cover every base as you look at wide receivers as far as running the full route tree and what a quarterback that's coming in would need as far as separation on routes, how you get those intermediate routes, all those things. So I'm concerned about that aspect of it. From the DK perspective, he got paid. He wanted out of Seattle. He got that. He's going into another situation. All the things look good until he lines up and we're talking about who he's going to be looking to his left or to his right into to see who's throwing him the football. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm not excited about what it looks like for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward just because you acquired DK Metcalf.
Yeah, well, so this is one of those situations where it's hard to know. And honestly, I'm recording this video in the middle of the night, and it's going to post tomorrow morning. So for all I know, which is frustrating, by the time this posts, it's already irrelevant because something has happened. But as soon as I fired up this clip, I was like, oh man, this could happen. But my hands are tied. There's nothing I could do about it. So hopefully this video can at least age for at least a minute. But yeah, it is hard because I know there's definitely talks about having Pickens move out, and that he would want out, and et cetera, et cetera. That's a tough place to be in because if it is just DK Metcalf, then I'm not sure where the excitement comes. I think DK can be great and all of that, but at this point, you pay for a wide receiver like this, and you don't have a young, established quarterback, then I don't know what the plan is. Because if you're going to run it back with Russ or go out and get Aaron Rodgers, again, then your mentality is like, hey, guys, we were a pretty good team last year, made the playoffs. Yeah, we got beat by the Ravens, but, if we tweak a few things here and there, we can win some games. We can be competitive. We can fight. We were almost fighting to win the division until things kind of fell apart on us. Like, you're thinking win now. And again, because especially if you're going to get an Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to get Aaron Rodgers for the next 5 years, and you're also not going to have Russ for the next 5 years. Both those quarterbacks are going to be retired in the next 5 years. So it's just like you're looking at it really from a this season basis, and then you're going to want to have, the duo of Metcalf and Pickens, and if that's not the case, then I'm failing to see how this team changes. Unless they're able to get a very immediate haul, which I'm not so sure they will, that they then can leverage for now. That's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to fully see the vision then, or what the plan is. So it's a hard one. And then again, it's like, this is where I find all this stuff so frustrating because it's like, I don't even want to do a whole song and dance and talk about why I think Aaron Rodgers should be the quarterback or why Russ should be the quarterback, only to then have later tomorrow or 2 days, whatever it is, to have them do the opposite. Then you're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter then. And so it's just like, it's crazy. I don't know. It's a frustrating situation to be in. And that's kind of why I kind of also keep telling fans to just be like, my dad actually just today was asking me questions about, what I thought about various moves. And he's like, oh, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And I was like, honestly, the reality is that the moves that are happening right now are still so early that you're still trying to figure out what the main plan is. Because you still have the draft, you still have free agency, obviously, there's still moves. Again, the Steelers, we don't even know who the quarterback is. So at the end of the day, how can we even say right now what's necessarily considered good? I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to look at it through multiple lenses, and that's why when I made my other Steelers video earlier, I was kind of like, listen, I would have thought that getting a Metcalf and a Sam Darnold, it's like, okay, now you're actually really building something, and you're actually building something for today and tomorrow. You're not doing that with Russ or Aaron Rodgers. And so it's just, I don't know, it's a weird situation. And if you're going to if you're not looking for the short term to win now, and then you're going to move on for Pickens, then I don't know why you would then have to go out and give all that money to Metcalf. I just think at that point, then you kind of maybe almost want to even take a Packers approach, and you kind of just start fresh with a whole new sea of of cast of characters, including quarterback, wide receiver, right? Then they all kind of can grow together. Like unless Metcalf was like, this awesome, grounded, personality, but he wants to win now. That's what he said. He wants to get paid and win now. So he's not going to want to really work with like a young rookie quarterback who's going to be developing. So it's just like, it's hard for me to see the vision. Like I'm trying to wrestle with it. And the Steelers have reportedly been interested in every quarterback. Seriously, they've been interested in every quarterback that's taken. Matthew Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold. They're seemingly interested in all these quarterbacks. We obviously know they weren't interested. They were not sold on Justin Fields. They let him go. And now you have Russ, and now you're potentially between Russ and Aaron. And if it's not Aaron, then it probably has to be Russ. And if it's not Russ, then it has to be Aaron. And if you draft a quarterback, I don't know. And that's the thing, if you're going to draft a quarterback, then there's no reason to have Aaron. I'd rather just have Russ at that point. Especially if you're going to try to have someone be like kind of a mentor type situation or, whatever it may be. And then again, you get to just kind of keep the locker room a little bit more smooth than if you're now incorporating Aaron. You also have the continuity of Russ. I'm constantly hot and cold on Russ and Aaron for that matter, honestly. You catch me 1 minute and I'll be pretty high on Russ, and you catch me the next minute and I'm not. I think the thing that frustrated me the most about Russ, and it wasn't even Russ specifically, and that's where I'm kind of like, well, how is this going to evolve, is that the offense was just constantly boom or bust. It was just moonball or nothing. Like, that's all it was, and I get so frustrated by those offenses, and it doesn't make sense why they couldn't work anywhere else within the field, and I don't think it's a Russ problem. Like, I saw it as more of like an execution and game plan aspect, and so it would be interesting to have Aaron there because he'll be able to run an offense. But yeah, I don't know at this point in Aaron's career, like so much of the situation matters, and Bruce said, oh, Aaron brings in some cachet. Like, I don't know if he has that anymore. When you were going from the Packers to the Jets and now the Steelers, like I don't know if Aaron commands a locker room presence anymore at this point. I really don't. I'm just not so sure if people are really looking at Aaron as to being like, whoa, that's Aaron. I'm just not so sure. Once that bubble kind of popped in New York, even though New York was obviously incredibly dysfunctional, it's just not so clear to me that he's going to command that in the locker room. It's not like they're not going to respect him at all, but he was going to be able to bring that aura from Green Bay to New York, because it's like, look, I'm leaving Green Bay. Look how great I am. Now I'm going to New York. But once the line was shown a little bit brighter in New York and kind of things unfolded how they did, But the other big question mark about Aaron is that he did miss an entire year. He was recovering from the Achilles tendon injury. He did actually play pretty decent considering the circumstances, considering his own health, time away, his age, and the mess of the New York Jets. So it's not hard to imagine that if you put him in a better situation, that he could have a lot of success, not to mention now just coming off of actually playing the past year and now being a full year removed from the injury. That is just a genuine variable that, like, we just honestly don't have. We can guess all we want. I truly try my best not to guess, and at this point, it's just like I don't know if he's actually like healthier than he was last year, and some of his issues were just rust and just not 100% right there yet. Then yeah, I think you're going to see then a better version of Aaron. And if you see a better version of Aaron, then I do think that this Steelers team will be better than whether it was with Justin Fields or Russ from that matter, which then makes it obviously a positive. But I don't think Aaron's going to be able to lead this offense unless you give him the weapons. Yeah, I think it would be pretty cool to have multiple great wide receivers. You have a 1A and 1B situation. If you can get that figured out, well then yeah, you are going to have Aaron that can get the ball. And if you do fortify this O-line and establish the run, the most generic thing ever, and actually just get a legitimate run game going, boom, then you really are kind of in business here. But I don't know. It just seems kind of messy right now, and I'm not clear what direction they're taking, and which is what makes it so hard to try to really figure out or to really get the excitement in one way or the other, right? When you just don't know who's going to even throw the ball, or if Pickens is going to also be there as well, you're just like, okay, well then, like, because the way how I evaluate this is going to be wildly different if it's Aaron Rodgers, Pickens, and Metcalf, or Russ, no Pickens, and Metcalf. Like, it's just, they're just wildly, completely different situations. So, free agency, man, this is a mess. I don't know how to make sense of these things. Maybe you do. If you do, let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way. Let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.